Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Shiracy?
Here.
Mr. Roden?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin? Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Steele?
Here.
Now Mr. Roden will lead us in the invocation and pledge.
We ask for guidance and direction in all city matters before us tonight. We give thanks to be able to be together. Let us continue to strive to make our community a better place. Help us to work together, and may we give our best always. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of minutes from our last meeting, September 12th. Are there any changes or corrections, additions? Anyone? We'll let that show that the meetings are approved as written. Awards and presentations? None? None. Audience participation.
First, we have Bob Hughes.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Mayor. My name is Bob Thews. I live in Meadowood, 2229 Demi Drive. The last meeting I spoke about the roundabout safety, the existing roundabout safety, and I talked at that time, and I didn't have good solid numbers on the number of accidents. I said somewhere between 15 and 30, and I heard quite a bit. So after that last meeting, I was able to get a full count of the accidents at that intersection or at that roundabout, and right now the total as of about 10 days ago was 31. So, and that's not even quite a year old, okay? Now, when I was working in the business world and a catastrophe or an incident of serious magnitude happened, it was anticipated that the responsible manager would go to the higher-ups with a plan to permanently remedy the situation. Now, maybe you all feel that this is not a catastrophe, although personal property damage alone is screaming it, okay? Maybe you never worked in the business world and that's not your acumen. Or maybe you just don't care. I really don't know. It is apparent that you will do nothing to resolve the problems on this roundabout. However, I beg you to now review the next roundabout and make it larger. You have the time, and expanding the diameter by 10 to 15 foot would require little engineering work, could be accomplished without any schedule delay. Changing the diameter should and would not create issues for the state. And I understand that the city purchased a property with a pretty good allowance around it of footage. And if there are any property issues, I'm sure they could be resolved easily enough just for the safety factor. And I could see no reason why the state would hold up any approvals on this change, based on the fact that it would improve the safety of the next roundabout. So for the sake of the citizens of Twinsburg, enlarge the next roundabout and save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayers' personal funds. I've been walking the city a little bit. You need to talk to the everyday people in Twinsburg. They hate this whole roundabout thing, and they hate the people that put it in. Okay, and you know, if you don't do something, they're certainly going to show you one way or the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sheila Williams.
I've been told to make it quick. But I'm going to address the roundabout because it's in my backyard. And I'm here for city business, so I'm going to say that. I don't want another inch of nothing off of 91 because it's going to be sitting in my family room. Okay? I'm going to say that. Number two, the decision has been made. It's going forward. There's no backing away unless I've misread something somewhere. We are concerned, but we have learned to live with it. I'm concerned about my 92-year-old neighbor who drives his Marquise every morning, his Grand Marquise, around the roundabout. I'm really hoping that maybe it'll keep him in the development if we have one, okay? I just want it to be viable and safe across the back of where my property lines are. There are about 4 homes there. I'm going to be asking for some of those stones so that if they come off of 91, you know what I'm saying, the stone can slow them down. So I'll be back next year to talk about that.
We used to call those something, and
So-
we have them out at Liberty.
Yeah, just to slow them down a little bit. It's an unfortunate situation, and we've been back and forth, and you know, I'm on the board, and one thing I said to the neighbors, and I'll say it again publicly, we got quite a bit of money to improve our roads that didn't cost us. We've gotten quite a bit of grant money to help us offset the cost. It is not a good situation, and I'm not going to say that it is, but I'd rather have it than to have chunk holes on 91, driving down 91 and problems, or me having to pay for it more in my property taxes or whatever. And that's all I'm going to say about that, okay? I got a couple of things. I'm going to talk about Kent State first. Kent State is having an open house October 7th from 11 to 7. They'll be showcasing the track, and it's a way for the community to really hopefully come out and see our facility. I'm going to give some hard numbers here. Since the November election, the graduate population coming into the United States has dropped dramatically, and I'm going to zero in on Kent State. We had 128 graduate foreign students that were supposed to come in, going to main campus, not coming to our regional campus, but coming to Kent State University. Only 28 came. When they went back, I saw the look that you gave me, Sam, when you looked up, because the money here is unbelievable. They called the countries, talked to the students, talked to the country officials, and there is an uneasiness. So the countries, and I'm not going to say which countries they were, that they didn't come. Well, that's $20 million from Kent State. We know that around the state, enrollment is down at the graduate level, because graduate students generate several things, not just full tuition, out-of-country tuition, housing, et cetera, et cetera. This is a problem that I would assume in the next 2 to 3 years is going to have a real big impact on education, be it public colleges or private colleges. These numbers were staggering to us. Now I'm going to bring it down to the regional campuses. Kent Geauga has 300 students. It is down horrifically. Our Twinsburg campus, the track here, has 767 students. We are still down 190 students between the two campuses. A couple of the reasons for that is we could probably take maybe 80 of them off. They graduated with a 2-year certification program and they've moved on. Some went down to main campus, or some transferred to other schools, and when they transfer to another school, it looks like we've lost the student. It's no different than public education when they transfer from school district to school district. So it makes the numbers look down. Across the board, our numbers are low. The beautiful thing about Twinsburg, and I can't say this enough, we're in the right location at the right time, and we don't have any more room. So if we had had those 180 students, it would have possibly been a problem. We're looking at Parkside facility possibly, because they have some classrooms. There's some conversation about the high school science lab for the science programs. There is a partnership that we've just recently formed with Community College and Dr. Johnson, and they're going to be going at least to Eastern Campus, Kent State, where they're not the only ones there. Hiram is there. I think Tiffin's there. There's about 4 or 5 other schools that are there that are working in partnership with Community College also. We're trying to zero in on what we can do to help Geauga to encourage the kids to go to the Kent campus there and then maybe later go down to Eastern campus. So I'm telling you all of this because there are a lot of things going on, and there is a concern. We cannot operate a regional campus with 300 students. The average cost is about $6,000. When you do the numbers, that's only 1 or 2 professors. So at some point, main campus possibly could get involved. But I thought that you all needed to be aware of that. The other side, I don't know how many, I think I spoke on it before, Berkshire and Ledgemont merged. They are now one school district. The state forgave Ledgemont's payments to merge. We had 4 other schools because they're trying to build a new high school on Kent State property in Geauga, out in Burton. It has been approved by the state. The state is matching dollars, 50%. It's about a $40 million construction. We are not spearheading it, and when I say we, Kent State is not spearheading it. It's Berkshire Ledgemont schools that are leading the push. This is going to be a K-12 building that will be on Kent State's site. There are good things that go with that and bad things that go with that. Good thing is they get a brand new high school in a rural area where you have all these small pocket communities. Bad part is Newberry does not want to be a part of it. There's another, Cardinal really didn't want to be a part of it. And they really need to try to figure out how to get all of these schools consolidated together where they can really enjoy the benefits of this, because with the CCP, the college credit program that the high schools offer, that could be a real saving grace for the Geauga campus because our students are taking advantage of it. That's why our enrollment looks like it looks. The Twinsburg kids, the Hudson kids, the Solon kids, they are really taking advantage of the program. People may not realize they don't pay as much per credit hour as, say, you or I would, because it's a negotiated price in alignment with the state, because the school districts pick up that bill. I don't know what's going to happen with the Geauga campus of the high school. I raised the question at our meeting. You have 2 levies that come with that, and we know that from building our high school. You have operational, and then you have the construction. And 53% of the people in Newberry live in poverty. The numbers are staggering in Geauga County when the banana is peeled down, what the poverty rate is starting to look like, as the food banks and United Way and all of them are starting to give this data out. 76% of the people leave there every day going to work. So they're suffering from the infrastructure of businesses. And so the campus is trying to figure out how to address that. So I just wanted to make you all aware. We had a big workshop. A couple of people are very concerned. We should not be, Kent State should not be the spearhead of telling school districts what they should do. They're trying to find a happy medium, and in the process of that, it helps to save the Geauga campus also. So that's an FYI for you, okay, as far as Kent State. Then I went to Summit County Public Health. I have some books. I'm going to give these to Shannon. One is a strategic plan for the next 2 years that we're doing, and it's very informative. One shows you our community health improvement plan of what Summit County Public Health is doing and the assessment for 2016. I'm sure that the mayor's office has gotten these, but I'm going to give them to her, and you all are more than welcome to look at that. I'm going to give some informational numbers because we have had severe cuts at the Summit County Public Health due to the refugee population. Asia Inc. and a lot of these companies, they will be out of business in the next year or 2 because of all the different bans and the different things going on. Good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of people here in Summit County and the surrounding area are going to lose jobs. And so we're having to look at how to tighten up, how to make some changes. So one of the things that we discussed were things that we are looking at subcontracting out, like the early childhood health home visiting. This is for healthy children, getting them in Head Start, making sure they're on track, identifying problems. We may end up not doing that as a public health department. Along with that, we deal with the shots. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But we may be looking at working with the school system, like Akron Public Schools. And we oversee it, but they're the ones that's paying for it. So that's something that was discussed. APS, the Adult Protective Services, and I hope that this is not cut. Our grant is running out. We started with someone part-time, then we ended up with someone full-time, plus I think about 3 people investigating, because the opioid addiction has started to cause children stealing from their parents, children abusing their parents, and APS, which we spearhead, we're the ones investigating that. So that's something that's in question, how we can work that out to keep it under our umbrella, because again, it's a public health issue, the drug issue of the opioids. The STD and HIV testing services, we may stop doing that. And it may end up having to go to like Planned Parenthood, and we all know that they're having cuts. But all of this is coming because of the cuts that we have gotten. And the children with the medical handicaps and gaps. And I want to talk about issue 2. We had a great presentation on issue 2, and I hope I do it justice when I talk to you about it. It really is a no. People need to really look at this and understand. I learned something I didn't know, that drug distribution from the pharmacy, prescription drugs, when I say drug distribution, prescription drugs, it's in 3 tiers. The manufacturer, which is Mark Weinstein out of California, that's trying to push the issue 2 bill here, VA hospital is the one that gets the biggest discount with that. What they don't say is that VA also buys old drugs that have expired. They're still, I guess, okay, but not dangerous to you, but they're expired drugs. They get the biggest discount in the drug business for pharmaceutical drugs. People can't compete with that. The next tier is hospitals. Hospitals buy the 2nd largest drugs. And the sidebar to this that was said to us was the addiction of the opioid has come from both of these entities. VA prescribing medication, and hospitals, doctors prescribing medication if you hurt your back or this sort of thing, because that's, a lot of it starts off as something very simple and it's just exploded into something much bigger. Then we get into pharmacies, and CVS just started taking script. I think that's what it's called. They don't take script anymore because script has told them how much they'll pay for the medication. It's a set price. They're not giving CVS any more money. So CVS says, well, fine, we don't want your business. The small mom and pop pharmacies, you have a problem that they cannot afford, if the medication is costing them, hypothetically, $200 to buy. It's only about a 5 to 10% profit that they make. And I really thought they made a much larger profit, but I was really surprised to find that out. Where VA may get it for $50, the mom and pop pharmacist may pay $250 for it. Well, with the PBMs, I think that's what they're called, they set the co-pays and what the insurance company will pay. And these companies are subsidiaries of the insurance company. That's something I learned a couple of weeks ago. I was like, this gets real interesting. And the reality is that people are going to stop taking Medicaid, taking certain prescriptions by certain insurance companies, and it's going to force people into a different arena where, when I think about what hospital does the largest prescriptions, Metro Health comes to my mind. They have probably the largest pharmaceutical department of all the hospitals, bigger than the clinic and UH. Well, that's all the way on the west side. If CVS decides they're not going to take state teachers' retirement, my question becomes, well, where can I go get my prescription filled? So I know that we don't endorse yay or nay, and as a public board health, we couldn't endorse yay or nay. I'm just giving the facts that people need to really read the print on the ballot. It is a no if you understand. We would never get VA prices because the drugstores can't buy drugs at that volume. We'll never get the hospital prices because they, you know, the small pharmacies can't get it at the prices also. It is going to create a situation where maybe for the first year you have lower drug costs. But it's down the road where you won't have any regulation on it. And then there are legal fees involved if he decides to sue the state of Ohio. So I just wanted to say that please go and look at it, read the language, go to the website. There's a lot of information on it. And if somebody asked you about it, maybe you can better explain it to them, because I've been talking to people about it. I wasn't for sure how it went, and after we had this presentation, I said, oh, this is a definite no. And that's what I have to say about that. Then I'm going to give you some dates, and I'm going to sit down because I was told not to take up all the time. Summit County Public Health, we're very viable. We're not in the red. It's running good. We're looking at what we can do for cuts. But I'm going to give you some dates of things that have happened in the last 7 years. In 2010, Barberton merged with the City of Akron's Public Health Department. From that, the negotiations started to consolidate all of the public health departments in 2011. 2012, we purchased a new building that's on West Market Street, which is a fabulous facility, and I'll say again, you really should get out there to see it. 2013, Summit County Public Health became the first public health facility in the state of Ohio to be accredited, and we set the pace for everyone else. 2013, we had a flood at the Graham Road, and we've resolved that, and it's doing really well. We've got the building leased out, and it's self-sufficient. It's not costing you, the taxpayers, the cities and the townships that support us. That was the year of the Ebola outbreak and set the pace. And then Gene retired and moved to Mongolia. And when you look at all that they have done in the last 7 years, and it's been a very smooth transition, and I've been told that it was so small prior to 2010, and to see the operating budget and what we do in the community outreach and the water issues and wells and things like that. So I just want to bring you up to date. I know that it's not too often to have a whole bunch of information, and that's all I have. Any questions?
I have one. With the jogging in our campus for Kent State,
Yes.
am I right that we are part of the Geauga campus, are we not?
Right, right.
Okay. I mean, should we be concerned that our campus may have a problem? Geauga's only got 300 students?
Which answer do you want, Brian? Do you want the politically correct one, or you want the real deal one?
The real one.
The real deal one is the Kent State main campus is not going to let anything happen to what's going on up here in Twinsburg. That's a reality check. It has been one of the best decisions made by Dr. Moen and Dr. Moore Ramsey when she was on staff to get that land and build that campus. It is still a part of Geauga because it was through the Geauga campus that the partnership evolved. I think the Geauga campus will survive. It's just what it's going to look like, okay? And I think that we will at some point become a part of main campus. And when I say that at the meetings, people cringe. But it's all Kent State main campus facility, no matter whether it's Tuscarora, Stark, it's all Kent State. It's one university. So if they have to reshift and reorganize, Twinsburg will be fine because, like I said, we don't have room now for more classes, and we need probably 3 to 4 new units. And the science area, because we're a big science community, we have a lot of nursing homes and different facilities here that dictate policy. And so if we can offer some more advanced type of classes in that relationship, that just further solidifies where we are. So we are going to be fine, but we are connected. Can't get around that. We are connected. And I hope that the new high school goes out there because that CCP program, if it stays viable, will help them tremendously.
Okay.
And go from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next, we have Daisy Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Maestros, council and staff. Daisy Walker, Environmental Commission. I'm just going to give you an overview. I think all of council and staff, and the mayor has a copy of this. And since this will be our last council meeting before our cleanup event, I just want to personally invite each and every one of you to come out. At 9 a.m. will be the welcome, and if any of you come, you're free to say something about the cleanup, something about the watershed, and give your comments on that. We do have our cleanup locations. I did meet with Twinsburg Township, and they gave me Hatton Road at Highland Township and Chamberlain Road at Highland, also in the township. So I didn't guarantee that we will clean both of those areas. As you notice, we're going to start from Creekside Drive, which is across from Chipotle, and that has a lot of trash in that area. And then we're going to be cleaning part of Tinker's Creek around Center Valley. We're going to do as much as we can within an hour and a half to 2 hour time frame that we have, depending upon how many people that we get for our cleanup. We're expecting about 200 people, so we should get a lot done. So I think we're going to have a great crowd. Also, at our last council meeting, Mr. Roden talked about the stormwater decal location, and Amy Moore was the one that ordered these decals, 200 decals, to go on the sanitary sewers. Some of the streets, we have it here. It's going to be on Rolling Acres, Chamberlain Ledges, Sharon Brook, also Waldo Way, Heritage Estates, Tinker's Woods, and many others. So we have only 200 of these signs. And then what we're going to do, this will be posted on your door if you have a sanitary sewer decal in front of your house, and it lists about no dumping things, do's and don'ts about the water or the liquids that you place into the sanitary sewers. Refreshments will be provided, and then after that we will be going to our Watershed Festival, which is across the street. Just for your information, there will be a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. So if anyone knows of a Girl Scout troop or a Boy Scout troop at that time, they could earn a badge. Are there any questions? I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it? Thank you. Council Communications, Mr. Scafidi.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. First, the Capital Improvements Board met several times since our last meeting, and they had their organizational meeting where they chose a chairman and a vice chairman and went over their rules and their orders that they were going to do their meetings in. They also then met with department heads, and they went over their capital improvement budget with the board. This year not being very many new capital improvements, a lot were repeats of leases that were already entered into in some of the departments, so it was just carrying that lease amount forward. And they went over all of it, and then they had their own meeting where they discussed what they were going to approve. And so they went through the whole list, and they approved for the most part just about everything, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 items. Tonight they spoke before the Finance Committee earlier this evening, and they made the recommendation to Finance Committee, and I'm sure Mr. Freer will be talking about that in his report tonight. But they recommended everything on there, like I said, to Finance. So I just wanted to congratulate this year's Capital Improvements Board. They did a really good job. Fairly newer people on the board, and they took their time, and they understood what they had to do, and I think they did a thorough job. And again, thank you to Capital Improvements for all of their help and their work. The only other thing I have is the BZA will be meeting tomorrow night right here in City Hall at 6:30. Other than that, that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Stauffer.
Okay, the ARB met on September 21st. On the agenda, there was signs that were approved for Take 5 oil change by direct image signs. So those were approved as submitted, as long as they comply with the illumination code. And then some of those signage were fastest oil change on the planet, take 5 oil cans, stay in your car. So that whole area up there by Taco Bell, the Loop Stop has changed owners, so those signs were all approved. There was also a porch for St. Cosmas and Damien that is going to be replaced, and that was approved as noted. And then a single-family home by Pulte Home that was also approved as noted. That's the only committee that I've met with, but I do believe we're going to try and schedule a safety committee meeting at some point. So, Mr. Steele, you're on that committee, right?
Yes.
And Mayor, we'll have to set up a time for that. Right, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Fury.
Well, good evening. I also attended the capital improvements meeting on September 19th, where we heard presentations for the Gulf, Police, HR, IT, and Parks departments. Following that meeting, there was a capital improvements meeting where we reviewed the budget, and we're going to carry the presentation forward from the capital improvements this evening. So this evening, on the 26th, we heard Dave Painter from the Capital Improvements Board give an overview of the recommendations from their board that Mr. Scafidi oversees, and there are 3 sections of the approvals. One was just miscellaneous vehicles. These are police, fire, service vehicles, which were approved for $1,081,455. Then we had because it's an enterprise zone, we had a fitness center capital improvement with a training zone to put additional features on the far side of the track for $55,000. And lastly, we have the capital infrastructure program, which are roads that come from multiple areas. Some of the money comes from the SMR fund. Some of the money comes from zero interest loans that we have. For instance, we've continually done, I think we're on our 5th or 6th water line in Ward 1. We're getting rid of Transite Pipe. That's $1 million against zero interest loans. The total infrastructure expenditures being budgeted for 2018 is $4.263 million. Those all passed unanimously. The next finance meeting is October 24th at 6 p.m. I also had an opportunity to attend an energy seminar by IEC. Things that they talked about were ways to reduce costs for cities. One of the things that they recommended, or that I think that we're going to look into with the fitness center, is they have a gas-powered turbo engine that creates heat that uses natural gas. And Dublin has installed this and uses it to heat their pool, and it reduces their. It also creates electricity, and they're able to reduce the amount of electricity they use from an outside source by 50%. So heating a pool is a big energy cost to us, and I think that we're going to look forward to seeing if we can find out what our investment would be and what our payoff would be, as we've done in the past with the other green initiatives throughout the city. Also, I talked about Senate Bill 221, which put some challenges on municipalities to get up to 25% less energy by 2025, and still embraces solar and wind technologies, which are popular but are heavily subsidized by the government at this time. So again, it was learned a lot to see if we can transfer some of that over. The gas program, the negotiated gas program for the City of Twinsburg program, is through Constellation. The price this year is $3.29 per MCF for a 2-year fixed price. If you start the program, you start your usage in October, you'll be billed in November. If you wanted to get out of the program, there's no fee. If you wanted to get into the program, there's no fee. So it'll be available for the next 2 years. If you plan on switching from your current gas supplier, on your current statement, there is a section that says who you get your gas from. you should call them to find out how long the duration of your contract is. Most companies, if you end your contract early, will give you a penalty charge, typically about $10 a month, but they can be up to $100 one-time fee. So you need to understand that before you make a switch. Constellation can be reached at 1-800-699-4014. If you are part of the program that the City of Twinsburg is last year, you don't have to do anything. It opts you in. If you left the city's program, you have the chance to opt into it. So it's both an opt-in and opt-out program depending on how you bought your gas in the past. That's all I have, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Roden.
Thank you. As Ms. Walker said, just a reminder that October 7th, in 2 Saturdays, is the cleanup day and the Watershed Festival. Cleanup day is from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Twinsburg Community Center, and the Watershed Festival is at 12 noon to 3 p.m. at Public Works. And they will have community service verification forms for any students that need their hours. Also, another reminder is the Reworks Household Hazardous Waste Center at 1201 Graham Road in Stowe will close this Thursday, September 28th, and their hours are from 2 to 7 p.m. Our next meeting is October 12th, that's a Thursday, and it'll be here in council chambers. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
I attended all of the CIB, the Capital Improvement Board's meeting, and I'm part of the Finance Committee, as Mr. Fury reported on. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Attended the Community Relations Board. Ms. McFerrin also attended that. However, she's not here this evening, but it was our first meeting in a while that we actually had attendance from all the representative organizations. So I would encourage residents, if they ever have a chance of to stop down to that meeting, just to it's a nice collaborative meeting that really shares what's going on between the chamber, the school district, Reminderville, the township, the city, and the library. So it's great to be able to sit together and make sure that our events are not conflicting, and if there's anything that we can work together on. So let's see. Second, we've got just wanted to announce, because Chris isn't here, branch pickup will start October 2nd. So if you have branches, get those out. And then we're probably going to start leaves a little bit early this year. Fall's coming quick, and even though we've got 90-degree weather, but the leaves are turning. So around October 15th, they're going to start sending crews out for leaves. Originally, I had scheduled, so this year started where we had 4 dates that I was going to do, basically a town hall meeting, a community forum. We've done 3 of them. The last one was set toward the beginning of October. I've now moved that to December 6th. Wanted to move it more toward the end of the year to capture some of the things that happened, as well as we are going to have some new faces on council, and it would give an opportunity for the residents to meet those individuals. So December 6th, mark your calendar at 6:30. I believe that's a Wednesday night. Council's talked about our budget and capital improvement. I've been meeting behind the scenes a lot with our department heads, and so we've been working really hard on the 2018 budget. You know, we're looking at approximately a 10% decrease from last year, which is a pretty aggressive cut in some of our operations and our capital expenditures. So capital improvement did a good job this year, the board, but they didn't have a ton to work with because we are trying to lean up some of the expenditures, both from operational and the capital improvement side. I want to announce, it's been in the paper, but as the golf course continues to progress quickly, schedule is still set for next, right now they're saying July. They're supposed to be under roof by Thanksgiving, and then they'll be able to tighten up those timelines of getting us in there and operating. But we did hire Abby Fechner, who is the face of the chamber. She's going to be working in our banquet operations. So if you guys know Abby, she's going to be a great addition to that. She's got contacts with about 300 businesses around here, as well as a ton of residents. She grew up in the area, So I think it's going to be a great addition to that facility. We also had, a couple of weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, we had an incident where we had a young man that was part of the football team, 14-year-old, collapse. So I just want to thank all those that were involved in literally reviving this young man. You know, our safety forces, our firemen, our paramedics, as well as the trainer from Kent State, and there was students involved, but we literally had to shock this kid back to life. And I just want to thank all that were involved. He's doing good. He's home now. And I know he's forever thankful. He was able to visit our fire department and thank people individually the other day. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing more about this, but you know, it's one of the things that, you know, we all kind of take for granted. But, you know, the city itself, you know, we pursued and forced really all the employees here to get CPR and AED trained. I would encourage all the residents, if there's an opportunity, to get trained, because you just never know when, you know, you're really going to be needed in an emergency situation. I know it's a scary thing to think about, but you know, thank goodness this kid was around someone who was trained, because he's with us today. But and then lastly, I just want to address the comments by Mr. Thews. It's at times disappointing when I hear a resident kind of stand up and either officially allege or imply that myself or council does not care about the safety of our residents. I'm pretty confident that Mr. Thews has not contacted our engineering department. Extremely confident he's never contacted my office and asked some of the concerns that he brought to the podium on high-def cameras tonight. And that's, I guess I would encourage residents before they come here and take a position grandstanding at a microphone to call our city, call council, call me, call our engineering department, call anyone that might be able to provide that answer. Because had he contacted us, I think he would have then found out that, you know, I've met with a roundabout expert from another engineering company. I've got an appointment with another one. I have concerns. I have the same concerns that I think everyone does when we see accidents. I think the roundabout is serving its function. It's moving traffic. It's doing what it's supposed to do. However, I think there's some adjustments that should be made to it. I want to make sure we've had a chance now to observe it, look at some of the data, look at the way things are functioning, and I think there's some things that we can modify, and we want to take that as we go into the second one. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes here that, you know, I mean, council may not even know some of the things I've shared, because it's something that I want to make sure that, you know, when we pick a path, if we're going to make some changes or if we're going to do something different at the second one, that I've done the research the same way we did when council approved the plans for 91 in the beginning. But a lot of work goes on, and so for someone to stand up and say we don't care, or, you know, and then to say that the residents hate those that made the decision, I think is a little out there. But you know, just next time I would encourage anyone, Mr. Thews or anyone else, to contact my office or contact a department head that may have more direct information than what you have, you know, from your house. But you know, that's the one thing I guess I want to share with the residents, is that, you know, we haven't put in a roundabout and forgotten about it. I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort watching what's going on there, wanting to make it better, wanting to improve it, and to make sure when we go into the second one, you know, we're doing what we need to do to protect our residents and to implement a intersection that is both functional and safe. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you. Any department head?
We do have a couple. Colette, did you want to report at all, or?
Briefly.
All right.
The Civil Service Commission did not meet this September. Our next meeting is October 12th, where we'll have a discussion of the rules changes that we're in the process of drafting and tweaking. In our IT department, we're continuing to roll out the new phone system. It does involve downloading software onto everybody's computer that will work in conjunction with the phone. The physical phones have been on everybody's desks for a while now. They need to be programmed a little bit phone-wise, and then there'll be something on everybody's computer that kind of interacts with the phone system. So that's all rolling out early October, maybe like the first week of October. They'll be flipping the switch, and it'll all be it'll be a go live situation. So we're getting prepared for that. And then one other thing, Mark's been working on a community calendar, as the mayor mentioned, in kind of coordinating things with other communities, with the township, other clubs, organizations in the community. Mark is getting a big community calendar all together. So there'll be one spot where everybody can go and see what's, you know, going on in the area on any specific day or weekend. HR-wise, Prescription Fitness, which is the company that is helping us with our fitness program, completed their survey of the employees, and they're now tweaking some of the program designs, the dates and the hours of some of the offerings so that they can better meet the needs of the employees. They'll also be holding a nutrition seminar here in council chambers on October 10th, again just for the employees. Maybe you have a little light refreshment or something, but we're going to talk about nutrition and how to plan meals, healthy meals. The fire department's going to be adding a couple part-time employees within the next week or so. Both of those employees are currently on the eligibility list. They've passed the civil service test, so that if we ever have full-time vacancies, they'll be able to transition into those roles. And then I just wanted to thank all the employees who were involved in the Employee Appreciation Luncheon. We had a chili cook-off just 1 week ago. It was very successful. A lot of the employees made chili and helped out at the event, and that was a successful event. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Colette.
Karen?
Okay, I have that final report for the month of September. We received $1,595,652 compared to last year receipts of $1,636,629. This reflects a 3% reduction compared to last year. Our adjustments are $31,000, and total year-to-date receipts collected so far is $16,899,360 compared to last year figure of $16,350,198. This does reflect I feel you looking at me. This reflects an increase of 3% or $549,162 compared to last year. The total net distribution change is $183,137. Also, just to give you a heads up, I have completed the continued disclosure statement. The deadline to submit that is September 30th. Once it becomes approved, it will be posted as well on our website. Any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
That's it this evening.
That's it? Okay, thank you. All right, legislation. I guess we're going to have several changes here this evening as we go through, so bear with us. Ordinance 87.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017.
That's the second reading on that ordinance. Ordinance 89.
I believe it stands on its second, so we vote.
This stands on.
This stands
I
on
know.
first.
Pardon?
That stands on second, is that?
Correct.
So even though the agenda says first, it
That's
actually stands on
incorrect.
its second. It's incorrect, so we can take action tonight.
Are you sure? I thought this was just
Just my bad.
I mean, I don't mind.
Yes, we talked about it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance, see, I told you. We adopt ordinance 87, 2017. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion.
The purpose of this ordinance is to reduce the amount of money that was put into the SCMR and Street and Highways Fund by $791,000 as we reduced the expenditures that we thought we were going to do last year, this year in 2017 on the 91 project.
Anything else? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
So ordinance 87, 2017 passes 6-0. Ordinance 89, 2017.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 89, 2017. Is there a second?
Correct.
Think that, is this on its second also?
Stands on second.
I second it.
Any discussion?
The purpose of this is to apply for a FEMA grant for $126,145, which would allow us to use grant money to buy houses on East Idlewood that are affected with the floods from Tinker's Creek. Thank you.
Actually, this is a FEMA grant that we applied for and we were awarded.
Okay.
This is just appropriating the money. There is another,
Yeah,
That's
there's
later.
another
later.
piece of
Yeah.
legislation
My
that
apologies.
allows for application. So,
I thought we were
so we have to
still on the same
appropriate
page.
all the money, even though it's a, I believe it's a 25% responsibility of the city, but we have to appropriate all of it. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 89, 2017 passes 6-0. Ordinance 91.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 91, 2017 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer, second. Discussion?
This is, so National Night Out is an event we've done a couple of years now, and so this legislation is just accounting for the sponsorships. So we had $4,770 worth of sponsorships for that event, so this is just accounting for that.
Thank you. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
The emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 91, 2017 as an emergency. Is there a second? Mr. Roden, second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ordinance 91, 2017 passes 6-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 92.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 92, 2017 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury, second. Discussion?
The purpose of the emergency is to allow us to transfer money into the finance department's budget for a small amount of overtime, $300, and $5,000 in professional services to be trained on a new software program.
Any other? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes. The emergency clause, it passes by a 6-0 vote. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 92, 2017 as an emergency. Is there a second? Mr. Steele, second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
The ordinance 92, 2017 passes 6-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 93.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 93, 2017 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Roden seconds. Discussion?
The reason for the emergency is that we have monies that need to be returned to people that put deposits into the planning, or the building department for homes in the Corbett Farm area. They've chosen not to build, so they want their money back, and that's why we need to do it quickly.
Any other? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
The emergency clause passes by a 6-0 vote. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 93, 2017 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Ordinance 93, 2017 passes 6-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 94.
An ordinance amending Section 147, Employees Generally, of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Twinsburg.
That's the first reading on ordinance 94. Ordinance 95.
An ordinance establishing salaries, wages, and employment descriptions for certain employees of the city and updating classifications of employees to be known as the salary ordinance and declaring an emergency.
We're not going to do an emergency today, so that's just the first reading on
Okay.
ordinance 95. Resolution 96.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service contract with Dennis Kabbalah to provide services as a utility coordinator for the city.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 96, 2017. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Discussion.
This allows the mayor to enter into agreement with Dennis Kabbalah to go on to a part-time position without benefits.
Any other? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Resolution 96, 2017 passes 6-0. Resolution 97.
A resolution authorizing the city engineer to submit an application to participate in the FEMA funding program for acquisition of homes in the Tinkers Creek floodplain.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 97, 2017. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Discussion.
This is the FEMA grant.
This is the
for
FEMA
the
grant.
new
This
house
is-
that
this
we
is
would
the-
like to buy.
Yeah,
Now,
this
like-
is a program that FEMA offers, and so we send out letter of, request for interest, and we had 4 or 5 people respond. We're going to apply for it again. This is we have a top priority house. There's different ones that we can look at. It doesn't mean necessarily have to do it, but this allows her to apply for it. And this is just trying to help residents get out of the floodplain, so to speak, by relocating them.
Thank you. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Resolution 97, 2017 passes 6-0. Ordinance 98, 2017.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, dispatchers, clerks, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put Ordinance 98, 2017 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion.
The reason for the emergency is this is a union contract that they, dispatchers and clerks have agreed to. There's back pay involved, and we need to put the emergency in so that we can get it rectified within the finance department.
Any other? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 98, 2017 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Steele second. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 98, 2017 passes 6-0 as an emergency. Unfinished business. Mr. Scafidi.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment about the resident that spoke about the roundabout. You know, there was claims of making the second one bigger and that it should be studied, and I hear what, going to echo what the mayor said, that we don't care about safety, and, you know, I take exception to that as well. But you seem to have numbers about accidents in that area or at that roundabout, but, you know, are you aware that there's accidents all over the city? There's accidents on straight highways here, such as 91 or Ravenna Road, or even in our slowest areas within our neighborhoods and developments. So there are accidents everywhere. You're segregating one area and talking about the accidents in that area. Then you claim that you know, we need to make the other one bigger, and that may be the case. And so in my mind, that tells me that you have some figures that says that if we make it bigger, we're going to decrease those number of accidents. So if you can, maybe next time, I'd like to know by how many accidents are we going to decrease by making that roundabout bigger. I mean, I don't know how that, if you have a study on that, or what you have on that, or maybe your engineering background tells you that, you know, if we make it larger, then there's going to be less accidents. So I'd like to know where that information is that says that that'll happen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mrs. Stoffer?
I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Fury?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Roden?
I have nothing this evening.
Mr. Steele?
I will not be here for the next meeting. I will be out of town.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know. And Mayor?
Just to remind everyone, October 11th, we have our fire open house, so put down your calendar. If you have young kids or old kids, it's a good time. So I encourage you to come out for that.
Mr. Maestros?
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing. Shannon?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Ms. McFerrin, who is out of town on business. Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, okay.
Mrs. Stoffer, seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Sure.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. I know the agenda says we have an executive session, but we held that at the end of the caucus this evening. So at this point, we will adjourn. Thank you.